FEMA denies Washington State's request for November storm disaster aid. New Governor Ferguson, he pledges appeal. We're going to appeal this. You know what? You know what the ridiculous thing about this story is? There's only an estimated $34 million in damage. And I think that's why FEMA said, hey, Washington, you guys are being like little children. It's not that big of a deal. You got a wildfire like LA. You got a fire like happened in Lahaina and Maui. Those are real disasters. You guys are a bunch of weakling, misguided, illogical people. We're not giving you any aid. No. Move on. Let's move on. No aid for you, Washington State. Plus, you're a sanctuary state and you try and keep criminal illegal aliens within your system. So no aid for you. You know, Trump's back there going, no, don't give them any. None. They get none. They get the big goose egg. Zero. Let's get into the details. Here we go.
Washington's own disaster recovery efforts hit a huge setback today. The federal government rejected a request made by state officials for help with the damage caused by last year's bomb cyclone. KOMO's Joe Moreno looks at the ongoing impacts of the storm and what this means for the state.
A tremendous series of storms wreaked havoc across Washington, but efforts to get help from the federal government to cover the costs of extensive repairs has come up short. Bob Burke says the federal emergency...
Short is when you ask for $34 million and they give you 20. Short ain't zero. Zero is not short. Zero is non-existent.
The agency has rejected the state request for financial aid and offered no explanation for the denial.
That's funny.
Perhaps the bomb cyclone in November created problems throughout the state. 2 people died and downed trees crushed homes and cars. Communities were left without power, creating ongoing hardships.
Days without power, having to find a place to stay because I was working at the time in Everett. So obviously trying to find a place to stay, find a good commute.
The state tallied more than $34 million in storm-related damage. FEMA dollars were requested to cover the costs of repairing roads, bridges, and other public infrastructure. But President Donald Trump and his administration say no money will be forthcoming.
Maybe he's being fair about withholding funds, but no matter what, he's withholding. And we need the money.
Homeowners who suffered losses turned to the U.S. Small Business Administration, as well as state and county resources for help that does not initially appear to be impacted by the FEMA denial. However, the governor says Washington met all the criteria laid out for this federal assistance and called this a troubling example of the federal government withholding funding.
I think we have to watch out to the places we donate and support. I think we have to be a lot more cognizant of the people we put in power.
Joel Marino, KOMO News.
I couldn't agree with you more there, dude with glasses and hat. I couldn't agree with you more. And maybe that's why Washington State got denied, is because we didn't really need the money. We're just like, I got a big budget deficit. Let's get some of that hard-earned Fed money. Let's get some of that taxpayer Fed money. That'll offset some of our other loss. They applied because they could. $34 million. That's what they're looking at. I mean, that is not that much. That's a tiny, tiny drop in the bucket compared to billions of other big natural disasters, right? If you don't remember, I did a couple of stories on this. I was literally walking around during the bomb cyclone storm. Yeah, it was bad, but yeah, trees were coming down, but it was dark and I couldn't really see them. Yeah, were there down power lines? Absolutely. Was it safe? No. Only 2 people died, a lot of damage. You know what? Some of my neighbors are just now getting their roofs fixed, and that's been, 5-6 months? But that's because you just get backed up when everybody has a tree fall in their home. Hey, we got to get roofing companies out to all these. They're still going hard. But as far as asking for FEMA money, I know it's just what you go through. But I think when I see these headlines, I think, good. It's Washington Street. Washington. Tristan Cotton, let's go with I always think Washington State is weak. Nah, don't give them any money. Let them just work it out on their own. They're like a little child who needs to have some encouragement to go in a direction from their parents, meaning FEMA, meaning the federal government. They need somebody to say, no, you can handle this on your own. You got this. It's good. You got this. 2 thumbs up. Just keep going. Keep going. It's all good. In a statement responding to the denial, Ferguson said the state's application met all the FEMA's criteria and criticized the federal government's decision to withhold assistance. It's $34 million. I mean, that's what you're asking for? $34 million or whatever based on $34 million? That is nothing. Just we're not even talking about that. Come back with a real natural disaster, Washington State. You guys are weak. You guys are misguided. You guys have no balls. That's why we're not giving you any money. You don't deserve it. There are very clear criteria to qualify for these emergency relief funds. Washington's application met all of them. All right, but it sounds like it's one of those things where, it doesn't look that bad. No, we're not doing that. No, this is another troubling example of federal government withholding funding. They've been cutting funding from a lot of ridiculous programs. I see many examples of that, and I have no issue with that. No issue with that whatsoever. Washington communities have been waiting for months for the resources they need to fully recover from last winter's devastating storms. Well, how about their local government help them out? What about that? Oh, we're spending too much money giving away electric bikes. That's literally one of my other stories. Washington Democrats give away e-bikes while facing $15 billion budget gap. So, you know what you do when you have a massive budget gap? You give away money. And then you ask the government to backfill that money you just gave away because Lord knows you can't tax your own constituents fast enough, right? So they said the big no. Cairo News 7 spoke with families in Issaquah who said many are still dealing with the storm's aftermath. Yeah, people in Bellevue are too, okay, but stuff like that happens. Her neighbor had 5 trees come down on her house, 5, so she's been out of her house since November. Caused major damage to her home. Okay, that does happen. Washington submitted its disaster declaration on January 14th, asking for federal help. Friday, nearly 3 months later, FEMA denied the request in a letter to former Governor Jay Inslee, offering no explanation beyond stating that supplemental assistance is not warranted. Yeah, you guys don't need it. You guys have your own fund. $34 million? You're bothering us for $34 million? What is wrong with you, you misguided you-know-whats? The letter, signed by Cameron Hamilton, senior FEMA official, noted that while the major disaster declaration was denied, FEMA Region 10 would coordinate with the state to explore other federal or volunteer assistance options. No main aid, but, throw you guys a bone. Hey, you guys want to accept some electric bikes? Maybe you could just give those out to your people and everybody rides around and just feels good about themselves, just pats themselves on the back. FEMA also offered to work with the state to gather additional damage information that could support an appeal. I thought the state already said that they had everything lined up here for, just the perfect grant money. State now has 30 days from the date of the letter to submit that appeal. The storm struck Washington between November 17th and November 23rd, 2024, and included a powerful bomb cyclone that brought high winds, flooding, landslides, and mudslides. Yeah, I mean, it was one of the worst storms I've seen, but it's still, the actual damage brought down a bunch of trees. Yeah, you got some power lines down, but I thought the power companies, they got us all running back up, within like a week. Some of the people further out, they had to go a little bit longer than that, but we figured it out. And yeah, we're still putting up some, fences and things like that. But do we need all this federal aid? Well, you need it because you're giving away a bunch of e-bikes instead of doing real work. The way I see it, 2 people died. Communities across western and eastern Washington reported significant infrastructure damage. And if you don't remember, what actually happened is the storm came across the Cascade Mountains, came down the mountains through the foothills. And the way that the winds were going, it just basically came up behind a whole bunch of natural vegetation. And the way that the root systems of those trees have been, have evolved over the years with the wind coming from a different direction most of the time, almost all of the time. When the wind hit the backside of these trees, boop, just knocked them over. I mean, literally just boop, 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 all over. So you just got a bunch of trees. I've literally in my neighborhood, when I drive out of my neighborhood, there are still some massive trees. I mean, the root ball is probably 10 feet tall. Gives you an idea. I don't know how long the trees were, but, just these massive, massive evergreen trees that we've just got all over. 2 people died. It was heartbreaking, said Hansen. It was awful. Yep, most natural disasters are. Former Governor Inslee initially declared a disaster for 9 counties. Got a bunch of counties you've never heard of. I'm not going to read them because you don't care. Governor Bob Ferguson, later expanded the declaration to include Jefferson and Kitsap. Oh, we can't forget you guys after additional damage was confirmed. FEMA's public assistance program typically reimburses states and local governments for at least 75%. That's what I was looking for. Of eligible costs related to a declared disaster. So 34 million times 0.75, ballpark-ish, right? Here's an example of what's going on in Washington state. REI retracts Trump cabinet endorsement, apologizes to members. Everybody is so worried about hurting somebody else's feelings in the state of Washington. Everybody runs around with a half-baked smile on their face and just, are you good? Are you okay? Are you doing okay there? Instead of just saying, what the F is wrong with you? Just go on about your day. Do your thing, right? Because we all do. We just do that. But instead, there's all of this, misguided compassion is what I always refer to it. So we got to deal with REI. They're based out of Seattle. They've been in Seattle for years, since the 70s. CEO Mary Beth Loughton has publicly apologized and retracted REI's January endorsement of Doug Burgum. He's President Trump's Secretary of the Interior. REI initially supported Burgum, highlighting his extensive outdoor recreation experience. However, backlash from customers and growing concerns over the Trump administration's public land policies, such as drilling, drill baby drill, and land sales, led REI to withdraw the endorsement. We made a bad choice. We went with him and said he's doing a good job, and now everybody's telling us, no, he's not doing a good job. So now we're going to say he's not doing a good job. We don't endorse him, and we apologize. That's literally the kind of nonsense that goes on in Washington state. In 2024, environmental groups raised concerns that the former businessman would prioritize profits for fossil fuel companies over the protection of federal lands. You know what I mean? Just like, leave the parks alone. Federal lands, if you need to clear cut some, if you need to drill on some, if you need to do a little logging, less trees out there that catch on fire, you got that whole thing. I am not a tree hugger. Got to be honest, not a tree hugger. I love trees. I think they're great. They provide an environment for all the animals. They do the canopy thing. They're organic. They grow. I love a good garden. But then again, when it comes down to people versus plants, people versus vegetation, I'm going to take the people all day long. And if that means getting out a chainsaw, and that's what we do. It's what we do. Loughton admitted the endorsement was a mistake, apologized to REI members, and emphasized the company's renewed commitment to protecting public lands. You've gone so far to protecting public lands that you're basically making everything unaffordable. And these ridiculous ideologies that end up with, why do we have massive fires, forest fires happening all the time? It's down in California. I don't understand. Why is there always a fire going on? Well, are you doing any controlled burning? No, it's terrible for the chipmunks. You know what I mean? We're launching an effort to unite the business community in defense of our public lands and waters. REI is now partnering with conservation. Do I need to give up my REI membership? I've been an REI member since, I don't know, early 2000s, something like that. And my parents were charter members as a kid. It's because we did a lot of backpacking, and REI was the one place you could get equipment from. Way back in the day, there was no other real camping. There was no other real backpacking. There was certainly no mountaineering. REI was it. But it's gone down all these iterations, and it's just so, go out and hug a tree, and cars are bad. Electric cars are the greatest thing ever, except for Teslas. If you see a Tesla, make sure you score a swastika into it, because, they deserve that. Now, we just got so many nut jobs running around state of Washington, and there's no shortage of nut jobs either. It's just going to continue this way. Like in the last election cycle, Washington State just went even bluer. So people always ask, well, Sean, how much longer are you going to stay in Washington State? I don't know. Probably a while, because as I'm building the YouTube channel, I need content. Washington gives me plenty of content. So does California. So does LA, city of LA, Oakland, San Francisco, Chicago, Illinois, Portland, Oregon, you name it. You've got misguided ideology, right? It's going to keep producing content day in, day out, and I'll cover it right here for you on News for Reasonable People. Because if you don't find this news story reasonable, you're just not reasonable. That's what we're doing. Thanks again for being here. Love to have you subscribe, do all that good stuff, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye for now.